So what do you think of what Ortland recently said about the development of doctrine outside the church? There's no salvation. I haven't watched it, but it really gets so tiring talking with Protestants and Catholics too. It does get really tiring about the development of doctrine. They seem completely unaware of a lot of the sort of pre-Nouvelle debates that occurred in the early 20th century, especially surrounding Father Marine Sola, uh, about the exact nature of doctrinal development. Because Sola, and what really blows my mind, and this is a bit of a tangent, but most people actually think that Newman came up with the development of doctrine, which is nuts. It's crazy. Like people actually think Newman came up with the development of doctrine, which I don't understand how anybody could be an educated person and come to that conclusion. My favorite is James White, who says that Newman came up with the development of doctrine after Vatican I. Have you heard that, Hassan?
Oh,
It's
no,
so
but that sounds
funny.
like it fits. Yeah, because Vatican
So
Vatican
funny.
One, like, who does it quote again? Does it quote Newman to prove doctrinal development, or does
No,
it
it
quote
quotes
someone
Saint
from the
Vincent
critical?
of Lorraine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
most people don't know about the Vatican I quotes about doctrinal development. It's crazy. Many
how
people, like, you'll
how
get like some gigatrads online who speak against doctrinal development. They're like, doctrinal development is so, like, Newman was a modernist and like a bunch of stuff like this, and they don't even recognize it. Like Vatican One teaches the development of doctrine. Like, and a lot of these guys, I talk to them and I'm like, look, you're telling me Cardinal Perone, the, like, Giga Chad, like, manual, like, father of theological manualism, like, head of the Roman College theologians, like basically the impetus for Vatican One, like Blessed Pius IX's favorite theologian. You're telling me this Cardinal Perone had no idea, like, just gave Newman a pass when he gave his notes on Newman's work on the evolution of Catholic dogma? You're telling me Cardinal Perone was just some sort of modernist who was in cahoots with Newman, or an idiot who just didn't understand what Newman was saying? That This is what you're telling me. It's so silly when you get into a lot of these discussions. But going back to my original point, people don't really recognize the relationship between revelation. Well, first, the relationship between faith and theology. That's the first thing you need to know. And then second, the relationship between something which is virtually versus formally contained. And then you need to understand something which is exegetically illative, or they'll put it formally illative, versus something which is uh, something which is objectively illative versus something which is formally illative. Um, you need to understand a lot of these distinctions, and this would take. Eventually I want to do, like, just a long sort of stream where I explain all of this stuff. But there's a lot of different distinctions that were brought out with interpreting the idea of development of doctrine for centuries in the scholastic schools, long before Newman even was a twinkling of Holy Mother Church's eye. Um, and it's just nuts. People have no idea. People don't read any of this stuff. They have no idea. Um, and then you get Protestants who talk about it, and it's just brutal. Because really, the development of doctrine should be one of the least controversial teachings of the church. It really shouldn't be controversial at all. Um, and if you apply the standards of doctrinal development to most Protestants, Orthodox, anybody, if you apply what we mean by doctrinal development, they have all developed. Um, and yeah, that's what I'll leave it at. It's really just a huge definition issue. that these guys really just have no idea what they're talking about. And I mean, I've offered to try to help them understand. But most of them just want to continue to live in ignorance. And I notice I actually I have an open debate policy when it comes to doctrinal development. That's my one thing. Anybody wants to debate me on doctrinal development anywhere, anytime, I'll do it. Because I just think it is. I'm just that confident in the fact that that nobody knows what they're talking about, and that it would be an easy debate.
When I finish De Revelatio, I'm going to quiz you, and if I don't like something you say, I'll challenge you to a private debate in the Discord server.
Oh my goodness. on doctrinal, actually, that would be what a good debate would be. Is have somebody who agrees with Sola's view, like Bessarion. Bessarion agrees with Sola's view on doctrinal development, and somebody that agrees with the strict Thomistic view, which would be Lagrange's view. On the definability of theological conclusions. But nobody cares about that. I mean, how many people would come out to watch a debate on the definability of theological conclusions? Nobody would come out. All the people that matter would come out, but all the normies that don't matter wouldn't come out.
I think the question is not so much about definability, but whether or not the definition would belong to one of dogma. Like whether you could say that it's contained in Revelation because it's certain from matters of Revelation.
Well, that's just the traditional label is just the definability, and by the definability, they are talking about dogmatic definition because the church can bind us to a theological conclusion, but it's de fide tenenda, not de fide credenda.
Right, but it's still infallible.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think saying anything is dogmatic that isn't at least like it contained implicitly in Scripture is like really weird. In Revelation, not Scripture, my bad. Revelation as a whole.